Hey, everybody, I'm Cynthia Barnes, Women in Sales Influencer. And tonight, I am so thrilled to have on celebrating us with Cynthia Barnes, Meridith Elliott Powell. She is voted one of the top business growth experts to watch by Currency Fair. She's a sales and leadership expert. She's an award-winning author, keynote speaker, and business strategist. With a background in corporate sales and leadership, her career expands over several industries, including banking, healthcare, and finance. Meridith worked her way up from an entry-level position to earn her seat at the C-suite table. Meridith is passionate about helping her clients learn the sales and leadership strategies they need to succeed no matter what this marketplace does. And without further ado, Miss Meridith Elliott Powell, thank you so much. How are you?
Good, thank you. I have been looking forward to this and looking forward to hanging out with you.
Yes, me too, me too. So let's get straight into it. These are crazy times for sales and leadership folks. What advice do you have for us to stay safe and sane in 2020?
Yeah, well, that is a big question and probably one of the most important questions that sales and leadership people need to be looking to right now. I think that the biggest piece of advice that I have is twofold. Number one is that you've got to realize that everything about the marketplace that you're trying to sell and lead in is different. So if you're using the same strategies that you used to lead people or to engage clients before COVID, your stuff is out of date. The second piece is that I passionately believe this as sales professionals. We are essential workers right now. We matter. Our clients need us, and sales is more important, I feel like, than it's ever been.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. What are you hearing? Because I know that you're still speaking and you are helping sales and marketing leaders. What are you hearing out there on Zoom? Not actually physically, but what are you hearing?
Yeah, that for sales professionals, we're really challenged, right? I mean, I think it's kind of interesting that we've sort of been like the last ones to really change and start to use technology as well. Most of the salespeople that I deal with had been used to getting on planes, used to meeting face to face, and now all of a sudden, all the traditional strategies that we use have gone away because we're all in our houses. We're all, either back to the telephone or back on, or for the first time, really using video. And so we're having to reinvent ourselves, be creative, and do things differently to be successful in today's marketplace. Some are making that transition and some are really struggling.
What would you say is the biggest mistake that they're making?
Yeah, the biggest mistake that sales professionals are making, this is so easy for me because I'm so passionate about it, is if people are not buying from you right now, it is not because people aren't buying. I mean, that is just a myth. They're not buying because you're not relevant. And you may be selling the exact same product or service you've always sold, but you have to understand that the problem you are solving for your customer has changed. And if you aren't actively having that conversation, listening and paying attention to their biggest pain point, then you're not selling a relevant product or service.
Wow, that's going to shock a lot of people because they're going to say, of course, what I have is relevant. Why doesn't my prospect or why doesn't my buyer see it? So what are some questions that they could ask to be relevant or to show that they're relevant?
Yeah, this is, it's the first thing that I am advising salespeople to do right now is number one, just go back to the last year, probably the last 2 years. And I want you to pick up the phone. You heard me. I didn't say make a Zoom. I want you to pick up the telephone and I want you to reach out and I want you to call your customers. And I just want you to check in. Tell me how you're doing. What are the shifts happening in your marketplace? What's going on with your industry? How are your customers being impacted? I did this with a customer today. It's somebody actually that I lost a job to 2 years ago. They passed on me and went with somebody else. I was on that phone call and 3 things happened. Number one, I got a wealth of information to truly understand what's going on in the industry right now. Not only the information, but the language to use to make my products and services relevant. The other is they were so thrilled that I'd reached out. I got a piece of business
Nice.
The second is at the end, I just said, this has been so interesting. You've been so helpful to me. Is there anybody else you think I ought to talk to? And she gave me 3 names, which I'm going to classify as referrals because at least I'm getting my foot in the door of
Yes.
who else to engage with. So if you want to be relevant, you need to listen, but not listen to talk. You need to listen for the language that's going to make you relevant.
Would you say that even after COVID has died down, that we'll still be selling virtually, or do you think we're going to go back to in person?
I think that it's going to be a combination. I mean, it's funny. The longer this goes on, I'm hearing how much we're craving just connecting with people. You and I were talking about this before the broadcast started, that, we miss just seeing people and engaging.
Yes.
But I think it's going to be a mix, because I think as salespeople, especially those that are doing really well right now, we've figured out how efficient we can be.
Yes.
I can do a lot more in a day if I'm sitting in my house, only getting dressed from the waist up and pounding the phones and making calls. So I think the best salespeople, or anyway, what I'm teaching is you got to be good on camera and you got to be good at the telephone, but don't lose your traditional skills, because they're definitely going to matter.
Speaking of traditional skills, you've got how many books? 7? 4?
Yeah, 7.
Okay. If I'm just starting out in sales, which of your books would be best for me?
That's easy. And in fact, if you'd email me, and I'll give you my email, I'd send the PDF to you for free.
Okay.
It's a book that I wrote called 42 Rules to Turn a Prospect into a Customer. And I wrote that book because it was the book that was the question I was being asked the most often. It was written in around 2009. And if anybody remembers back that far, it's when the economy crashed in 2008. And people would say, I could get in the door to talk to people, but I can't turn them in. I can't ink the deal. And so I wrote this book. It's just 600 word chapters, nothing more than that. You can read it like that. And it goes step by step, exactly what you need to do to not only get in the door, have the right conversation, make the proposal, close the deal, and turn them into a referral source. It is the roadmap of sales.
I love that. We are going to email you to get that, because I know that there are tons of NAWSP members that would love to read that, and that, go back to basics.
Yeah.
Going back to basics. Real quick, I want to say hello to Brenda Meller. She is a LinkedIn guru here from Detroit. Hello, Brenda. And Lionel King. He is the king of real estate in Northern California. And another LinkedIn user popped in. I'm not sure who you are, but I'm glad that you are here. If you have any questions about thriving in the economy and in this current state, let us know. What questions do you have for Meridith? Meridith, I have another question for you.
Sure.
What do you think the future holds for salespeople? Because I hear a lot about salespeople are going to be obsolete. What do you think?
No way. No. I think that order takers are going to be obsolete. Absolutely. Because, all the research shows that we're becoming more and more comfortable as a society to handle small, uncomplicated problems online or by ourselves. I mean, we all go to the grocery store, and now we're comfortable with the self-checkout, right?
Right.
No matter your age, whether you're Gen Z, millennial, or you're a boomer, when the problem gets complicated, you want to engage with a human being.
Yes.
Well, that is what salespeople do. We take complex problems and we solve them and make life easier for our customers. So I think we're going to be, again, more important than ever. But you've really got to understand what sales is to ensure that you're going to be one of those salespeople that is still around.
Yes, that's an excellent point. I'm always telling our members, we have to be someone that is a resource, and our customers are contacting us for information they can't Google.
Right.
If they can get it on Google, they can get the information, but they can't get the solution.
Yeah.
Right?
No, so true. Every time I step on stage to do a keynote, now I do them virtually, the thought in the front of my mind is, if you can Google it, why would you stand here and watch me? So I better be delivering something that is thought-provoking, paradigm-shifting, and useful to help you move forward. It's the same in a sales call. When somebody has given you time to meet with them, their time is precious.
Mm-hmm.
And so you better make it worth their while. But you can do things that they can't Google, and you can make things easier for them, help them make money, save money, or just have peace of mind.
Yes. Yes. So let's talk about sales strategy real quick. Let's say you've got someone that it's a big fish. You want to land them. You've been back and forth. You don't want to send emails about, I want to circle back or bumping this up to the top of your email box. What can you do to get them to sign on the dotted line other than just saying, you know what, I'll give you my firstborn? How do you move that forward?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that I think that people need to understand about landing the big fish. I mean, first of all, I always tell salespeople you need to divide your prospect list into three ways. You need to give yourself some low hanging fruit, just so you're not desperate for the big fish to land. You need to have some big fish on the prospect list, and then you need to have some referral sources. But big fish take time, and I am the queen of the drip campaign. So first of all, you better be building your reputation online. And Cynthia, you are the queen of that. Believe me, by the time you come knocking on my door, I have heard of you and about you. I know who you are, what you stand for. So the chances that I'm going to open the door and let you in to talk with you in the first place are pretty strong. So you got to start there. You got to realize that people have to have heard of you and about you. From there, you better be ready to drip on them for a long time. And what I mean by drip on them is the fact that you better be a value-added resource. You better be taking content where you understand things about growing their business, or reports that they would be interested in, or videos that they would want to see. And balance that. I believe in a 70-30 split. 70% of the reach outs to big fish ought to be value add, and 30% needs to be asking for the business. You still need to ask for the business, but it needs to be a value add split. Just like I've been fishing, and you throw that line in the water, you don't jerk it out, you pull it in slowly. And that's what we're doing with them. We're pulling them in slowly by differentiating ourselves with value added content.
Absolutely. We've got a question. Hello to Corliss Barnes Darnell. And yes, that is my mother. Thank you so much.
Oh, I love it.
Yes, she is here. I will show her pretty picture. She just had a birthday.
Yeah.
And yes, she's amazing. Amazing. Aaron Stewart asks, is it okay to call cell numbers instead of work numbers now that most aren't at their offices? What do you think, Meredith?
I always ask. I never assume that I can call the cell number, because I don't know if it is a work number or a personal number. So in my contact, again, I had one today, and I just said, is the best number to reach you, and I'll put their cell phone number in there. Now I ask it that way because I want the cell. I want permission to ask the cell. So I don't say, what's the best number to call, because they might give me the office. But I do ask permission first.
How many times do you reach out to a prospect before they just say, or before you say, you know what, this is not worth it?
If you ever showed any interest in me, I'm never going away. So I mean, that's just the truth. I mean, when somebody tells me no, I mean, I lost one yesterday that had come in. They'd asked me for a proposal. I put a proposal out. We'd had a great conversation. They just came back and said I was, too high or whatever. And no problem. We didn't do business in 2020. By 2021, 22, 23, whatever, I'll be doing business with you. The beauty of a drip campaign and dripping out on people is it's no big deal for me to send you an article once a quarter or twice a year. And I get a lot of business, I believe, not because I'm smarter, better, more talented. I get a lot of business because I've got more stamina than most salespeople do.
Yes. That perseverance, because no simply means nothing changed. Right?
Yeah.
Until you tell me don't call me ever again, I'm still going to ask, is that policy or personal preference?
Yeah. I always think, I'm sure that every guy that ever dated me is glad that I did not have this policy when I was in the dating arena, because I am like a barnacle. I never go away.
But that tenacity is beneficial.
Yes.
beneficial. So let's talk about being a woman selling in a male-dominated industry. What's been your experience? Good, bad, ugly, indifferent? Overall, what would you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
I came up, I'm 57 years old, and I came up very much selling in a man's world. I mean, the very first sales job I had, I was the second woman. I was the first woman hired, but there were two of us, and the 598 men. And so parts of it were really not good because a lot of the guys had a chip on their shoulder that we were there. I mean, quite frankly, we were hired because we were women, because they needed women. But it was a big reason we were brought on. Some of the guys had a chip on their shoulder. A lot of the guys, far more of them, couldn't have been more helpful and couldn't have been more supportive. But the problem was in those days, the way that you sold did not work for women. I wasn't allowed in the the club grill at the country club where the deals were really done. I was a single woman at the time. I couldn't ask a group of men who owned the businesses to go out and drink a beer with me or to play golf with me because their wives didn't like that.
Right.
So while men were supportive and helpful, the strategies that they were giving me that had made them successful were not working for me. So I had to figure that path out on my own.
Sure. And what did you figure out?
Yeah. So what I figured out was that the beautiful thing about sales is that if you can be effective for a client, nobody cares what you are. They don't care if you're 10 feet tall, 3 feet tall, green, blue, if you're a man, woman, transgender, they don't care. They just want people who are going to be successful. But I figured out that since the traditional routes that were closed to me, such as the men's grill or the golf course or hanging out and drinking beer with the guys, I had to find different routes to get in front of my customers. And one of the biggest was networking and community involvement. If I could join boards, if I could get involved on committees, people could see how diligent I was, how committed I was. They could get to know me in a relaxed atmosphere. And so I became really this champion of I was just a networking guru. I really built relationships in the communities where I worked, and I served on pretty much every board. And by doing that, I really got connected to the people I needed to be connected to ultimately, while I never could go into the men's grill, it was easy then for me, once I was on boards with these men, to then go play golf with them or do the things I needed to do to bust that ceiling. So I had to find a different path. But Cynthia, I gotta say the biggest thing that I did that I really think is smart, I didn't waste 1 ounce of energy whining, complaining, or feeling bad that I couldn't go in the men's grill, that I couldn't ask men out for a beer, because while it was unfair, it was a waste of my time and energy. I needed to focus on what I could do and put my time, energy, and resources there.
That is so smart, because I hear people say, I can't do this and I can't do that, but let's turn it around and say what I can do. So I hear people talk about women being insecure and not confident. I don't think that that's necessarily true. The women that I come across in NAWSP, to put it quite frankly, are badasses.
Yes.
Yeah, because we have to navigate a male-dominated world. And just like you said, we don't sit around playing the victim card. We say, all right, this is the way it is. How can I pivot, or how can I alter this so that I am successful? I love that you capitalized on that.
Yeah, it's where you put your time, energy, and resources. Here's the other thing too, is that once I started to put my time, energy, and resources on joining boards and getting well networked, everybody knew me because I was one of 2 women in a sea of 600 of us. Yeah. So what worked against me on the front end was a huge asset to be a female on the back end.
Yes, absolutely. Erin says 100%.
Yeah,
absolutely. 100%. So as we head into the 4th quarter of the year, we're going through unprecedented times. What advice do you have to those who may not be on track to hit their quotas?
Fourth quarter is my favorite quarter of the year. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked about the fourth quarter. We don't have enough time for me to talk about fourth quarter. So first of all, just forget about the fact that you're not where you need to be. We're just going to start right over October 1st. But this is the quarter of the year that matters, in my opinion, more than any other quarter, because
Okay.
what you do in this quarter is going to determine how good and effective you are and how successful you are in 2021. So you
Right.
need to sit right down and decide, make a list of who you are going to call on in fourth quarter, how many calls you're going to make, and the strategy that you are going to use, and kick it right off October 1st. Don't worry about closing deals. Don't worry about any of that. Just focus on the behaviors. The other thing is, I want you to maximize the holidays. Maximize Thanksgiving by giving thanks to every customer referral source that you've worked with, because while your competitors are pulling off the gas, sitting home eating turkey and mashed potatoes and putting their feet up, you are out there staying visible. As we come into December and we start to approach the holidays, most people are going to quit calling around the 15th of December.
Mhm.
I want you to call and use this strategy. Hey, Cynthia, I know we're headed to the holidays and you're looking forward to going home with your family and relaxing. I just wanted to check in. I wanted to get a date on the calendar for right after the first of the year, because I want to come out. I want to do a check-in with you to make sure that we've got everything in place so 2021 is your best year on record. Now, what I've done with that is I have planted the seed in your head
Mhm.
that come January 2nd, your phone is going to ring and it's
Yes.
going to be me. If you don't do that, you'll waste half of January not wanting to bother people.
Right. That is so true. I love that. Keep your foot on the gas. So, as you're giving thanks, what is your favorite gift to give your customers?
Yeah, it sort of changes with me every year, but there's two I always do. So typically, I have a book coming out pretty much every year. So around that time of year, I gift my book to my customers. But right at the beginning of the year, I do what I call Meridiths New Year's Resolutions, RE Solutions. And they're my top 10 strategies to make it your best year on record. So I end the year by giving my clients a gift of my book and a little something with it. And then immediately right after the first of the year, 500 of my closest friends get Meredith strategies for making it their best year on record.
I love that. I love that. Is that part of the drip campaign?
It's parts. Oh, bingo! Nothing gets past you. It's exactly where the drip campaign starts every year. So I spend the holidays while most people are wrapping gifts for their friends and family. I'm building my list and doing the research of the 60 to 100 people that I'm going to drip on are the following year. So I use that downtime to gather names, emails, snail mail, the traditional, their social networking sites. I do all of it and I compile it together, and then I kick off the year with that New Year's resolution, and then the drip campaign starts from there.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So I know that not everything is rainbows, puppy dog's breath, and baby's breath, and all that good stuff. What's the biggest mistake or learning opportunity that you've had in your life?
Okay, you don't have enough time. You don't have enough time for that either. The biggest, honestly, the biggest is when I stepped into selling in a man's world. I really burned the first year feeling very much like a victim. While I said the majority of the men were very much focused on supporting me, I was very focused on the small handful of guys who was, quite frankly, kind of hazing me. It felt a little bit more like a fraternity than it felt like joining a sales organization. And it took me a good 6 months to a year. I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that wasting my time and energy on stuff I can't control is a total waste of time and
Mm.
energy. And that doubled into the biggest mistake is I used to get upset about failure. And now I really like the very first LinkedIn live that I did, which wasn't that long ago. I was on air completely black for 12, 13 minutes before I figured it out. And my friends called me and said, "Aren't you embarrassed?" And I'm like, "No, I'm figuring out how to use LinkedIn Live." I mean, that's just how it works.
Right.
So really embracing the fact that failure is a part of things, and that you have to just keep going and trying, dust yourself off and get back up. And I put too much time and effort over whether I was embarrassed or thinking that people cared, or focused on what I didn't have rather than focused on what I did have.
Right. Controlling those controllables. And I think if we have a lens or a growth mindset, that helps, because there's always going to be something that we can't do, circumstances that we can't control. But again, you pivot your thinking, change your thinking, change your lens to, well, what can I do?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think one of the most fascinating things that I've learned from researching books is the fact that success is not logical. Success doesn't happen to the people who are the best educated, with the most resources, with the most amount of money, and the most lucky breaks. Success happens to people with the strongest mindset. And I love that, because you can control your mindset. And if I could go back and advise my young self, I would have been in mindset classes at the age of 6.
Yes. Yes. Mindset is so powerful. We talk about BBA, your bounce back ability. Sales is the only profession I know where you get rejected 9 out of 10 times and you wake up and go do it again the next day. It's like glutton for punishment. Glutton for punishment. Hey, Kari, he wants to know, what's the best advice you have for someone starting out in sales?
Well, Kari, great. I am thrilled that you are starting out in sales. My best advice is, number one, find somebody a couple of people that you really think are good at sales, and just call them and ask them for advice. Really, exactly what you're doing with me. Say, what are some of the best tips? What really, really worked for you? My second tip is, when you get into sales, really work your network. I don't care if you did something completely different before. Go out and tell everybody you know what you're doing now, what you're selling now. So, because people who love you, who know you, want to help you to be successful. Then the third is really just start learning. There's so much good information online, so many things that you can study. And sales is a skill that really can and should be learned, and you never master it. So make that time every single day, and follow up with the email. I'll send it to Cynthia, but follow up with her and get that PDF of your 42 rules to turn a prospect into a customer. And that will show you every strategy you need to be good at sales.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Kari, for asking that question that is on the minds of a lot of people. A lot of people. Meredith, what are you reading right now?
Yeah, what I'm reading right now is, I just finished a book by Amy Franco called The Modern Seller.
She's amazing.
She's amazing. I love that book because Amy wrote it right before, she wrote it before COVID, but it's really, really relevant right now. And then I finished a book. I just finished Lights Out which is about the fall of General Electric.
Okay.
And a book by Ken Langone called, he's one of the founders of Home Depot, called I Love Capitalism. And you talk about learning to accept rejection and dusting yourself off and getting back up and taking a flyer. It was that. So as you can tell, I'm kind of a ferocious reader, which I recommend to people as well.
You've got to be, because we just don't know it all. In my experience, the more we read, the more we realize we don't know.
Absolutely. And I love doing conversations like this, because I'm just sitting here listening to things you say, and I'm like, oh, that's a good tip. I learned that too. I need to take it away. So I would say to Kari as well, just be curious, because you're going to hear such good tips all over the place.
Absolutely. Because there's so many people that want to give you good information, and being a student of selling or a student of sales will take you so far.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You wouldn't go to an accountant that doesn't have tax manuals on his wall, and you wouldn't go to a doctor who doesn't go to conferences and read the AMA and all that good stuff. So why would you not be a professional salesperson by reading podcast or listening to podcasts and reading books and all that good stuff?
Absolutely.
Yes. I have so many questions I want to ask you, and I know that we are short on time. I want to get everybody to this debate because it's going to be fire.
Yeah.
What do you think the future holds for selling over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think that really salespeople, we are going to talk about being a student. You've got to work on really, how do you prospect in a virtual world? How do you sell in a virtual world? How do you network and build relationships? How do you differentiate yourself in the marketplace? But here's the thing I think about that. So you need to study, you need to learn, you need to expand your skills. You need to understand, as a good salesperson, you're going to be more important than you've ever been. And you will always work if you're going to be, if you're in sales. But we're going to be much more strategic advisors and people who not only solve the problems that our customers have, but I feel where the demand is going now is we need to be a step ahead. We need to be looking at what the marketplace is, how it's going to change for our customers' industry and for our customers, and what are we doing to be the person who gets out in front of it and solves those problems. So you're going to see a lot more of marriage between marketing and sales.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Can I ask a personal question?
You can ask me anything you want to.
Okay. How do you manage work and life?
Yeah. I don't believe in work-life balance, and there's no offense to anybody who speaks or studies it, because I'm sure if I studied it, I'd probably be able to figure it out. But years and years ago, I came across this quote that I will butcher, that is attributed to Buddha, and says that the real master in life is somebody who blurs the lines between working and playing, and neither they nor anyone else can ever tell what they're doing. And I believe that. So if you hung out with me for a day, you'd see me get up really early in the morning, and I tend to work and write really early in the morning. Then I'll leave the office and I'll play a round of golf, or I'll go ride my mountain bike, or I might play a little tennis. Then I come back and I work some more. And then in the afternoon, I may go take a walk or go on a hike. So everything is moving all together. For me, I'm a real outdoorsy person, so I love that. At the same time, I love the work that I do. So it's all a mix to me. So I don't balance my life, but I'm very clear on my priorities. I work out every day. And workout for me isn't the gym. It's a mountain bike. It's a round of golf. Just before I came here with you, I was at an outside restaurant with my girlfriends. We hadn't had a girls' night out in ages. So I feel no guilt around, I manage my energy, not my time. And I know what pours energy back into me and what sucks it out. So if I'm working on a book, which I'm working on right now, I had to write a couple of chapters this morning. I deserve to get on my mountain bike and go for a ride in the woods.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I love that you said manage your energy and not your time. I used to say manage your priorities and not your time. But if you manage your energy, I think that's better.
Yeah, I do too. It's kind of like I could be at my desk working away, but if I have not had a conversation with my husband all day, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, wow, I feel really guilty, right? Like that poor man's came home from dinner. Came home from work. I didn't even ask him how his day was or anything. So managing that out. I also know that when I take a break and I go for a walk in the woods or something, I come back and I'm so much more productive.
Yes.
So I just, you got to know what fills you up. For some people, it's reading a book, it's time with their kids, it's whatever. But taking those little energy breaks to fuel things back into you makes you so much more productive. I struggled to get there at first because I was definitely a workaholic. I think some people would still call me a workaholic, but I feel like I play a lot, I work a lot, and it's all mixed together to me. So I'm trying to become that master of life.
Yes. I want to ask you one final question.
Sure.
What is your intention in life?
Yeah. My intention in life is to really help people learn to view uncertainty as opportunity rather than a negative. And Cynthia, I really want to stress that I mean that from a personal situation, from a business situation, whether uncertainty, we fear change. And even when change is positive, but when it's negative, I mean, I shared with you that my first husband passed away, that we can drown in what life handed us that isn't unfair.
Sure.
Where I heard this quote not long ago, and I say it in my morning mantra, that life happens for me, not to me. And I feel like my intention is to help people understand that life happens for them, not to them. And if you can shift that belief, and when something shows up that you didn't expect or that you didn't want, how I want to build the strategies to help people understand how to cross that path. I'll just say one more quick thing. I know we're burning time, but I did a quick survey the other day, just asking people, are you someone in an uncertain marketplace? Do you run to the sound of the gunfire or take action? Or are you somebody who sits back and takes a wait and see approach? Mm-hmm. I was shocked that only 20% of people ran to the sound of the gunfire and took action. And because most people are fearful. Mm-hmm. My life's work right now is figuring out what it makes people both personally and professionally run to the sound of the gunfire and see the opportunity in the challenges and obstacles that life throws us, so that the rest of us who maybe aren't as comfortable with that can see the steps in the path of how to do it.
Wow. That's a huge mission.
Yes, it is. Might take me a couple of lives.
Yeah. How can I help you with that?
Well, you're helping me. You're helping me right now. I mean, I'm a big believer that if you build your network, it changes your life. I've been such a huge fan of your work for a long time, and you reached out to me before I reached out to you, and I really appreciate that. But just staying connected, sharing the message. I mean, I think all of that is in how we get there. I mean, I love people to think about the fact that you're only one person away from any time in your life from somebody who can help you achieve your goals or change your situation. And all you have to do is reach out and connect with them. And that's what you did with me. So here we go on the path.
Yes, I love that. Well, you know what they say in the South, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. I figured the worst you could say is no. And I would say, is that no forever or no right now?
That's right, because we're both like barnacles. We're just going to hang on.
Just hang on and on and on and on. How can my audience get a hold of you?
Yes, and I would love that. I am a believer in build your network. It will change your life. So I would connect with you. They can find me at my website, which is valuespeaker.com, just the words value and speaker.com. Okay. I live on LinkedIn for the most social networking, but you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. But if you just reach out on my website, I certainly will reach out and connect with you, or connect with me on LinkedIn.
Great. And do you have any opportunities for speaking engagements in 2021?
Yeah, I've actually got a live speaking engagement coming up in October, believe it or not. And but most of the things carrying through 2021 are still virtual. I do want to say, if you go to my website, though, there's a purple bar at the top called Emerge Successful. If you click on that bar, it's chock full of free tools and resources that you need to grow your business, sell more effectively, videos, scripts, all that kind of stuff, all there for free to access.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful. Meridith, thank you so much for your time this evening. I know we're about to go into a tough fourth quarter. The tidbits, the tactics, the insight. Thank you. Thank you for pouring into us. Thank you for sharing your valuable time. I know it's your most valued commodity and that you can never get it back. And I'm grateful that you shared it with us.
Well, I think that this has been time incredibly well spent. As I said, I'm a big fan. It's so great to connect with you. And I just really appreciate you giving me the time to be on the show, and appreciate the people who tuned in.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Erin, Karen, Kari, Corliss, Mom. Lionel King and Brenda Meller, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, everyone from Facebook, from YouTube, from LinkedIn. Thank you, Meredith, for helping me celebrate us. Have a great day.
Bye.